You're listening to this week's episode of the Vacation Rental Business in Today's World podcast. You're about to start transforming your business and life with the information found here. We interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in the vacation short-term rental industry and supporting businesses. The information found here is a combination of brain science, transformational thinking, safety and loss prevention, and vacation short-term rental knowledge and experiences, all rolled into one to help you and your business to achieve levels you never thought possible. I am glad you are here, and now please welcome your host, Eric Thibodeau.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Safer VRS. I'm glad you're here. So today I want to talk a little bit about loss prevention. We talk a lot about fires and different things, but before, just a little bit updates for me. So I'm here in Gulf Shores this week, and this podcast is going to come out late. Just different issues happening at home and in our office, which we'll talk about in this podcast. I'm back in the U.S. full time now. My work in Egypt is complete, and everything I'm working on now is in the vacation rental industry, just about, whether it's through Safer VRs or current tides or here stays or our properties that we own in our fund, Bigger Texas Vacation Rental Fund. So excited about that. Looking forward to attending some events and meeting more of you this year and helping even more than I have been in the past. So really looking forward to that and seeing everyone. We talk about loss prevention, and it's really interesting. I do expert witness work, and I got someone that contacted about loss prevention, and I view loss prevention from the industry, from protecting property and life, and mostly when I talk about loss prevention, I'm talking about property damage. And however, this case was kind of interesting. They were talking about loss prevention in a store where someone had basically a convenience store, I believe, was robbing the store, and the individual robbing the store was shot. And so this whole issue came up. And so, of course, I said, hey, this is not my area of specialty. So I declined that particular case, but I'm working on some others right now. But I guess it got me thinking about what exactly is loss prevention. And maybe how I'm using the term is obviously not what everybody else is using the term. And when we talk about loss prevention or use terms, or maybe we don't use the terms, it seems to be we talk a lot about fire. And fire, in my 30-something years since I was in high school, I was on the fire department there, volunteer. And through the years, industrial and everything, municipal, volunteer, ambulance, rescue, hazmat, all dedicated a lot to fire, stopping fire. I've also done fire prevention work, which is another way of loss prevention. However, we focus a lot there about safety of the individuals. But today, talking about loss prevention, we talk a lot about fire and fire prevention, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, smoke alarms. So these are really good things. However, I'd like to talk a little bit, not necessarily about that today, about another loss prevention topic, maybe don't fully acknowledge all the time, and that's water. Water is really good. We use it every day. However, when it gets loose inside of our properties, outside the pipes, or through damages in the walls or windows left open, roof leaks, hot water tank leaks, piping leak in the attics. Water is extremely destructive. So don't let me mislead you and say fire is not destructive. However, I believe water damage causes more issues, not necessarily to people, but to the buildings that we live in, the buildings and the properties that we use as vacation or short-term rentals. And so here's my focus for this brief podcast today is let's not underestimate water damage that could be occurring or could occur. And how are we preventing some of those activities? So it's kind of ironic here. We had I don't necessarily like hot water tanks in the attic, and they're pretty prevalent here in the southern part of the US. So I replaced them at my home and brought in a tankless hot water heater with propane, which with a little bit of work is working pretty well right now. So that's been good. We had a hot water tank that was really, really old in our office. We bought our office building for current tides in 2021, and went up and did the inspections, and I found, the hot water tank. The insurance company came by and said, "Hey, your hot water tank's really old." I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to replace it." We replaced it, and as we were replacing it, a little broke and caused water to come into our office, collapsed our ceiling, and what we were trying to prevent actually occurred. And, understanding where the water shutoff valve is really important, shutting off the water and stopping the flow of water. But even though we did that, water, came in, the ceiling collapsed, our floors, luckily none of our equipment was damaged. However, we're in week 2 of repair there. And so it's disrupted our operations. The wintertime is slow in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. So it's been helpful, but still it could have been avoided, right? And this is a loss. We're spending money. We're working remote. Good thing practice through COVID how to work remote. However, the water leak caused the problem. So understanding, checking your water lines, your hot water tanks, overflows, maybe put an overflow sensor in there, understanding where your water shutoff valve is at a property so that you can, when a leak does occur, you can stop it. We talked about firefighting a little bit, and certainly one of the things, maybe unless you've been a firefighter, you may not fully appreciate. When the fire team goes in, they are definitely working, as you'll see them, hopefully able to gain entry to the house, and they're going to work from the unburned side of the house to the place where it's burning. That's their preference, right? Maybe not what all the time that happens, right? Because actually, when you think about it, when I walk in as a firefighter into a house and I fight from the burned side to the unburned side, I'm pushing the heat and the damage into the unburned side. Now, that may not be the quickest or best way. It's certainly not the best way, but that may be the only way to gain entry to stop the fire, which is causing damage as we speak. So they want to fight from the unburned side to the burned side, and they really work diligently to reduce the amount of water that's necessary. They come in and do salvage operations because what they're going to do is cover up equipment that's not been damaged, but they may have to open up walls and different things to look for fire and fire embers or fire that may be moving horizontally or vertically in the structure. And so they're working to prevent damage. Most damage that's happening is by water, right? The fire does damage, but water is doing damage too. So once again, even in the firefighting application, when they're extinguishing a fire, they are conscious of the water that's being applied and the damage that it could create in the unburned section of the structures. So that's really, they recognize the potential and the issues with water. Some of the things that we are doing, and we've done for a while here, and maybe you're doing them as well. During our slower months, we do checks on properties, and we don't let a property sit more than 2 weeks, 14 days without us going in there. And we also do preventive maintenance checks each month. But if we've done a preventive maintenance check and someone hasn't been in the property, we go in to the property and we just look around, make sure things are good. And water leaks, or what we're looking for, one of the big things we're looking for, damage, maybe pest, maybe a window left open, something. And here's a really interesting situation we found. And it's so small, it may be something that goes unnoticed. So we like to leave in the tubs, the bat tubs, we leave the drain valve open, right? We don't leave it closed. And here was a property we've discovered, drain valve was closed, and there was a small drip into the tub. And we went for the check, and we found the water was probably halfway up the tub. So you kind of think, yep, this thing is dripping over several days, several times, maybe a minute, every 30 seconds. Maybe when we see it happening, we don't appreciate it, but that water is building up in that tub and the drain valve's closed. So if we would not have made that check, we would have found the water overflowing into the property. And this was a high-rise condo. And I think that makes it even worse. The water comes out of the tub onto the floor and then goes into maybe the wall or crosses the floor down to the next unit below. And so this minor drip problem has now spread from the property that you manage to the one below. And the owners typically are responsible for those repairs. So looking at water leaks, particularly in the slower months, even if it's in the tub, look at how water is going to get out. Here in Christmas time, first week in January, we had, in Gulf Shores, it just doesn't freeze very often at all. And we had well below, we were in the teens, maybe 20 degrees Fahrenheit here. And for those who didn't do good water management and taking care of their pipes, we saw water problems. We managed 2 HOAs and we saw some of that. And of course, we spent quite a bit of time, our team did, working with those particular properties to clean those up. But then we had one property, and once again, this is where you manage a property, you've done everything you could. In this particular building, it's a 5-story building. The 4th floor, the water sprinkler system, the fire protection system froze because it was not properly maintained or it was exposed to the cold. It froze, it leaked, froze, and then after the temperatures increased, the water came down to our property that we manage on the 2nd floor. And there was someone staying there, or it was just arriving. And initially the water damage didn't seem to be bad, but then the water recovery, the maintenance teams came in to look at the damage, found water in the walls. And so we had to move that guest, right? So that owner was out of that rental income, right? Then the follow-up snowbird that was coming in and going to stay through April 1st, that guest said, hey, I can't stay there, right? The water leak is still going on, or the remediation actually. And as I'm here this week, in the 2nd week in January, we're expecting water damage to not be completed until the end of January. So now this owner lost all winter income, right? And so the guests were taken care of, right? We've done that, but we manage properties for owners, right? To offer to guests. And so we took care of the guest and we helped the owner to recover. However, she's out of that income and it's really no fault of her own. And so this is what I'm talking about. You may create or allow situations to exist or things happen, and water is just extremely devastating to properties, and particularly in buildings and condos. We've seen it quite a bit. I've seen it more since I've been property managing in the last 6 years. And it's just something I'd like to leave with you to say, look, we talk a lot about fire and loss prevention, and rightly so, because fire creates a lot of problems for the people that are in the structure, which is our primary concern. However, while we've addressed that, because we're proactive, rental, short-term rental managers, we need to look at water. And water creates more long-term problems. Fires do as well. But however, water creates more problems. And sometimes people just don't fully acknowledge water, even the water damage, because it's in the wall. You may or may not see it. It'll create some mold problems or mildew problems. But a long time, as the weather warms up, we'll find some mold issues. So that creates a longer term issue, a bigger remediation. And what we find with water is it's just a big money consumer, right? You have to pay to dry out, you have to pay to repair. Meanwhile, you have loss of use. You have all the same things with fire. But I feel like we understand that with fire. Do we really appreciate that with water? So as we talk about in Safer VRs, we're working to take care of the people, the owners, the guests, But let's not forget that we are also taking care of the properties and water that's not in places where it's intended to be due to leaks, due to overflowing tubs, due to damaged piping, holes in the roof, improper freeze protection that causes piping cracks. All these things are opportunities for us to up our game, knowing where the water shutoffs are, and not how to respond when something's happening, right? Let's think about what are we doing to proactively monitor the properties, as we talked about, where we're out there checking properties, looking for leaks, and get with your team and say, hey, are you really looking for leaks? When I'm doing that, and I'm going to be doing some of these checks here this week, I'm opening cabinets. I'm looking for all the exposed piping for water leaks. So I'll leave you there for today. Hopefully you find this was useful, and go out and take a look at how water could impact your properties that you're managing or owning, and how can you, as a property manager or owner, take proactive actions to stop and prevent water leaks, and then have a plan of what you're going to do when they actually occur. Because here's one of the things, everyone, we need to really understand is that water leaks will happen in our properties. Fires will happen in our properties. We can never be 100% positive in prevention. We work diligently at it, but like, as I mentioned with our owner, where she did everything right, we did everything right, and some external factor, like a fire protection, water leak, water line that froze. It could be a storm. It could be a hurricane. It could be whatever it is. We need to be prepared. So I appreciate everyone listening. Go out and create a safe day. Join us in Safer Vacation Rentals. Go to safervrs.com. See what we can help and provide for you. Take a look at Safer Vacation Rentals, our closed group that's open to everyone. You just register. And then we have our Awakening Vacation Rental Safety, which provides a ton of content and interaction. However, it is a paid group. You can join through safervrs.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Safer VR's podcast with Eric Thibodeau. If you enjoy this, I would love you to join my Facebook group, The Safer Vacation Rentals, for more of the same. You can also join our email list at www.safervrs.com.